The new federal Labor government, they're stuck in a bit of a vortex at the moment after 4 weeks. In this vortex of still wanting to deliver their billions of dollars in election promises, and there was plenty of that, and yet they face the largest debt this country has ever witnessed, stumbling into the $1 trillion realm. And so Blind Freddie would know that it's time to pull your heads in, time to cut the fat and review those exorbitant promises that swept you to power. At the household debt level, when we face higher power bills or you spend a mozza on a great holiday, what do? We all know how to make up for it. We back off our spending, we shelve that next big item, and we reassess down the track. That's what we do in the household. And I'm seeing evidence of some economic responsibility from the new Treasurer, Jim Chalmers, but I'm not so convinced about Anthony Albanese's intentions. If he wants to continue being liked, as we saw in National Cabinet on Friday, he won't be making the tough decisions he needs to make. Plus, as we know, he's never run a business of any sort in his life. But time will tell. And on the debt note, the New South Wales Treasurer, Matt the Green Keane, releases the state's budget this coming Tuesday, although he's leaked out more than what's left to release. However, today he and the Premier came up with the most wasteful example of spending I think I've ever heard announced in a government budget, especially after that government has been drained of funds because of COVID emergency payments. The New South Wales government plans to put another flagpole on the Sydney Harbour Bridge. Terrific. Bear in mind it already has two, which features on most occasions the Australian flag, and they tend to alternate the New South Wales flag with the Indigenous flag. All well and good. But in another pathetic attempt at virtue signalling and symbolism, the Treasurer will allocate $25 million to ensure the Aboriginal flag flies permanently. A $25 million gesture to apparently close the gap, we were told today. Close the gap? Maybe $25 million would be far better off spent on health, education and some basic infrastructure in regional Indigenous communities. That's what closing the gap really means. It's not symbolism. We've had decades of symbolism. I bet some of the elders from outback communities have not been pushing for a permanent flag on the Sydney Harbour Bridge. I'll bet you the bridge on it. Now, I saw the Indigenous flag flying proudly on the bridge only last long weekend, a week ago. Why shouldn't it be alternated with the New South Wales flag? We have one national flag. There aren't two national flags. I know Anthony Albanese tries to suggest that there are three flags because he stands in front of it every time he holds a press conference, but there's only one national flag. So why are we seeking to divide the community and have different flags for different groups? And as for the cost, that is a shocker. This is how the New South Wales Premier reacted to the price today.
The fact that we built the Harbour Bridge back in the 1920s, I'm even surprised it takes this long. I mean, I made the announcement a while ago, and the first brief that came back was that it'd probably take 2 years to do. I mean, I'll climb up there. I'll go to Bunnings myself. I'll climb up there and put the pole up. But apparently it does. Apparently that's the costing. And I think it's an important decision that we've made. I think it brings unity to our country, and it's a small price to pay for that unification.
They're both laughing. Matt Keane, Dominic Perrottet sitting there laughing about the cost. I don't think any member of the public would think the cost of this is funny, except, of course, the company being paid for it, $25 million. Now, we have many important priorities in the state of New South Wales, and this is not one of them. He says it's a small price to pay. No, Premier, it's a massive price to pay for a virtue signalling symbol. And that is all it is. And if they wanted to get a flagpole at a good price, all they've got to do is Google Flag World, and there's plenty there for $500, not $25 million. I joke. Someone, though, is laughing all the way to the bank. You could build a new bridge for $25 million. Maybe not like the coat hanger, but you get my drift. If there was any time in recent history for all our governments to shelve their dream list of things to build, this is the one they should be pulling their heads in on. But of course, It's not their money. It's ours, taxpayers' money, and that doesn't ensure politicians operate with the same financial scrutiny as householders. And of course, MPs go weak at the knees when it comes to minority groups. They don't like to have to make the tough, correct economic decisions because minority groups are much louder than the majority. But the Aboriginal leaders and friends that I know in the community who have an intimate knowledge of the problems facing their communities right across Australia would definitely not be backing this kind of symbolic excess.